I cannot stop playing Marvel Rivals. Through a private alpha, closed beta, and now coming up on 10 months of full release, Marvel Rivals has become something of an addiction for your favorite internet games guy. I try to sneak in rounds of Rivals whenever I can. I play it in the morning before I get to work. It's become my go-to experience for online game nights, and after a hard day's work of editing or whatever it is I actually do, I love nothing more than to just kick back and relax by yelling at my teammates in a good old game of Marvel Rivals. And the game's third season, titled The Abyss Awakens, has introduced a lot of fun new goodies for us to chew on. We have a few new maps on Clintar, a new game mode called Resource Rumble, which adds some desperately needed variety to your average queue, stricter crackdowns on toxic players, and our new heroes, Phoenix and Blade, despite not being as interesting as Season 2's offerings, because they're both damage heroes in a game filled with mostly damage heroes, and ones that kinda fill the same niche as other already playable heroes at that, are fun additions to an already stellar roster. The truth is, despite what you may have thought when clicking onto this video, I actually think Marvel Rivals is in a great place right now. I have just as much fun playing it now as I did back at launch, and ultimately, the game has maintained its momentum a lot better than some of its peers. But I am beginning to see some cracks in the foundation that I want to highlight here today before the game hits Season 4. And it all starts with this. You see, last season, Marvel Rivals introduced the option to purchase alternate color schemes for a select few skins, each costing around 600 of the game's premium currency lattice, or around $6 US to purchase. And a lot of people weren't thrilled with this cost, but it was fine because they were introducing a new currency known as unstable molecules as a more permanent solution to unlocking these alts. But the implementation of this new currency leaves something to be desired because it doesn't really have a reason to exist. Unstable molecules are acquired through in-game means like the battle pass, but much like the blue units before them, they can also be acquired at a 1-to-1 ratio for lattice, and I can't help but feel like they only added this new currency to lock people out of using their existing currency for these new cosmetics. While it's nice they give you some for free, only a handful of characters even have these alternate skins in the first place, so if you don't play one of them, this currency is basically a waste to you anyways. The unstable molecules are just as exclusive, expensive, and difficult to obtain as the game's other currencies, while offering a much less substantial reward. It's $16 to unlock the skin in the first place, and then another $6 to unlock a new color scheme. You get enough molecules in the battle pass to unlock one of these alts for quote-unquote free, but then they also added unlockable ultimate effects that add fancier animations to your attacks, so if you want the complete skin experience, that makes it another $6 regardless. And you just know they're gonna add even more. They've already started selling super superfluous things like emojis to use in chat, a GIF that plays next to your name card, and apparently leaks have indicated that customizable kill animations are also on the way, so who knows what else is next. And it feels especially weird that they managed to make everything involving the unstable molecules as obtuse as they did in the same season where they introduced the excellently handled accessories. Accessories are little plushie charms that can only be worn by specific characters. They look cute hanging off your guy, add a little animation on the side of the screen, and are obtained with a new currency that is earned exclusively through playtime with no other options of payment. And I feel like these two systems should be swapped around. Rewarding playtime with alternate color schemes for existing skins feels like a good way to reward dedicated players while also not giving them too much to still encourage spending, whereas stuff like these little charms that resemble other Marvel characters are the exact kind of dumb minutia that I'd be okay with a game like this charging a little extra cash for. And you don't technically have to engage with any of this, but the problem with having so many cool cosmetic things instead being optional to pay for is that it incentivizes the devs to lock everything behind paywalls. Like one of my favorite details in the game right now is that Rocket Raccoon's respawn beacon looks different depending on the skin. The beach one gets water, the Christmas one makes it into a present, and it bums me out because I can almost guarantee you that a year from now, stuff like this will instead be an optional purchase and not be included with the skin. I already found the lines they drew in the sand between skins and the MVP intros and emotes some skins come with to be strange, but little did I know that they were going to micromanage every little possible cosmetic addition into a whole hellscape of in-app purchases. There's a very obvious power creep coming up where they've been introducing skins with more and more bombastic effects, where towards the beginning of the season, skins would retroactively get these effects added to them. Now they're launching with extra optional cosmetics. The skins have DLC on disc disc now. Isn't that crazy? And while this does add more customization for the player, it also opens them up to so many more potential methods of monetization. And one thing I hate in any video game is when you can feel them trying to money grub off of you. I think there's a way to maintain a free-to-play game through cosmetic sales and continually charging players and have it all still come off as relatively classy, but having so many random bits and bops that all cost real money with in-game pop-ups advertising them creates an air of greediness around the product that didn't used to be there. And I feel the need to harp on that last point especially hard because Marvel Rivals launched perfectly fine. They got to be touted around as one of the most player-friendly free-to-play games ever made, and then out of nowhere, they went back and added 100 new things that the player doesn't get to engage with unless they pay. And this change in attitude is best showcased by the way they've switched up their seasonal content model in the past couple months. In the first few seasons of Marvel Rivals, the game would keep players invested through limited time events where you were given challenges that would eventually reward you with a skin. But early on in Season 3, they all but abandoned this model in favor of these new event passes, which are like mini battle passes dedicated to a certain theme. Instead of the mission-based progression of the past events or battle passes, these new events run on a much more traditional experience-based system, with each of these matches filling up these meters slightly more, and each level of the pass giving you a new cosmetic. And much like the battle passes, you have to purchase a premium event pass to get most of the cooler items offered to the player. And I really don't like this. I had my complaints about the challenges past events would offer, mainly with how annoyingly specific they could end up being, but in retrospect, I find myself preferring that to this much more arbitrary progression. When everything levels up at the same linear scale, it does kind of remove any form of player agency. Like if you wanted to hunker down and really grind out the battle pass, you could do these missions, but there's not really an alternative for the event passes other than raw playtime. Past events had a very clear mission statement. They were a checklist of little activities to do that would familiarize you with new characters or goings-ons in the story and reward you for engaging with them with a skin. But now it's a very shotgun quantity over quality approach. You get more cosmetics, you even get them more frequently and technically cheaper than buying them in the store, but there's no intention anymore. There's no effort put into it. Just play the game and get your stuff. And the fact that you have to buy a premium for most of the rewards really changes the energy around these supposedly free events. You're constantly being reminded that if you just got over the tiny hurdle of paying for it, you would get even more in exchange for your time. Instead of working to get a free thing, it's working for a paid thing and only getting half of the rewards. And that just doesn't feel as good. Also, none of these event passes have included any units. Where past events would reward you with little spurts of the game's main currency to help offset microtransactions, none of these event passes have included any so far. And when they're asking for the same amount of lattice as a premium battle pass, which gives you a fair amount of the stuff, I would expect at least a little kickback. It all just contributes to that air of greediness I mentioned earlier. Like now that the curtains have been pulled back a little, we're dropping any pretense of nice guy Netease and going full ham on the monetization. And it doesn't help that I also just don't love the direction they've gone in with a lot of these skins. I find that every time they try and stick super hard to one central theme, instead of just ripping skins from the comics, the final product turns out to be kinda boring. Like the battle passes for Season 1's all vampires and Season 3's all Phoenix Force and symbiote skin combos are just kinda boring in comparison to the others' more flexible theming. And these event passes are more of the same, with each one having a rigid theme that it sticks to. Robots, beachwear. Right now there's not one but 2 Phoenix and Venom symbiote themed passes that you can purchase that both end on the same day, and I just don't find these skins as exciting as their potential comic counterparts. And that's ignoring the ever-growing rise in what I'm going to affectionately label as Gooner Marketing. They seem to be going in harder than ever on character skins that have less clothing and making sure you really notice that fact through their MVP and select animations. And for a game that I thought had already skirted the line of acceptability when it came to their more risque skins, I don't love this direction. Most of the time I'm pretty neutral towards stuff like this, as it's more or less a necessary evil in the world of live service gaming. In order to keep things free to play, you have to sell skins. And if you want to keep selling skins, you have to keep upping the ante, which oftentimes translates to more fan servicey designs, but it gets to a point. I don't mind these characters having revealing outfits. In fact, I actually kind of champion the idea in a time where a lot of games seem to be scared of doing anything that isn't brand safe. But the second you start to lean too hard into stuff like this, it creates a very unsexy vibe for all involved. It's one thing to have these outfits in the game for a player to choose to engage with, it's another when Rivals begins marketing the game on social media like this. I mean, I heard the marketing was ass, but this is ridiculous. It's one of those things where the people who don't like this stuff usually just ignore it and stay quiet about it, but the people who love it so much that it begins to be kind of weird for everyone else, and by plastering Psylocke's butt as the first thing people are going to be seeing from this game, it basically guarantees that we're only attracting the weirdos. And the worst part of all of this is that a brand like Marvel doesn't even need the Gooner stuff to sell skins. Most of these characters have decades worth of classic costumes to look back on that people will lose their minds over, many of which already resemble the Gooner stuff. People have been begging for a classic Spider-Man skin since before the game came out. Surely we could have done that before we do very prevalent penis Loki. I don't need these characters to have their bits out at all times for them to have value to me. And like, I get it, I like when my favorite characters get to look hot, but despite what people on the internet may tell you, the attractiveness of these character designs is far from the only thing Rivals has going for it. Although I couldn't blame people for coming to that conclusion because the game itself directly reinforces that mindset. Stuff like this always comes off as very cynical to me. Like, it's very obvious what kind of people Rivals is pandering to with animations like this, and obviously I'm in the minority because it seems to be a fairly effective marketing strategy, but if I wanted to play a hero shooter where the only characters that matter are the attractive ones who sell the most skins, I'd play Overwatch. I don't know if I'll ever fully fall out of playing Marvel Rivals. I mean, it took me like 2 years of no updates and a disappointingly money-hungry sequel to stop playing Overwatch, but there very well may come a day where I stop telling people I play Marvel Rivals, just like how I don't tell people I played Stellar Blade or Honey Pop. It just gives me a vibe that I don't like. And all of these seemingly disconnected tangents come together in our final topic, as just a couple days ago, the team over at Netease announced that they had been given the green light to create original, non-Marvel characters for Marvel Rivals. And needless to say, I think this whole ordeal is stupid. I don't want to harp on this topic for too long, considering gaming journalism thrives on getting negative reactions from rage-baity headlines like this, and honestly, it's entirely likely that the game director mentioning this possibility in a one-off interview could amount to nothing, but I also can't understate just how much I hate this idea. I feel like it's fairly obvious that the only reason Rivals blew up like it did is because it was Marvel Rivals, and when there are so many classic characters that still haven't gotten the chance to shine, I can't imagine anyone's gonna be thrilled when Netease's OC joins the roster. Whenever I see a headline like this for a live service game, my mind instantly gravitates towards the worst case scenario. And based off how things have been going, I could very easily see a timeline where all the worst parts of this game's monetization and character design coalesce into an army of generic, conventionally attractive women because that would sell the most skins. A scenario that sounds preposterous until you remember that's exactly what happened to Overwatch. And of course, there's also the possibility that we're all reading too far into this, and when they say original characters, they actually mean familiar characters who have been reinvented in some way, going under a game-exclusive pseudonym, or having a slightly different hero identity for whatever reason, and there is something of a precedent for that already. Characters like Psylocke, Venom, and Cloak and Dagger, while not being wholly original, do feature some pretty significant game-exclusive twists on their lore, and if we're due for more of those, I could live with it. Stuff like the MCU takes large liberties with its characters all the time, and most of the time it works in service of a larger narrative, so as long as we're not getting another Nightlight or Taskmaster, I don't think there's too much room to complain. And who knows, maybe I'll be blown away. After all, Luna Snow started her life as a cynical marketing ploy to draw the K-pop crowd to Marvel Future Fight, and she eventually worked her way into the mainline Marvel continuity, and now exists as a cynical marketing ploy to bring the K-pop crowd to all of Marvel Comics. And I guess I don't hate her. Listen, at the end of the day, I would rather get a million dumb, obscure, C-list characters translated to make sense in this world over even one original creation with no comics to call their own. Part of what I love about this game is seeing how they've translated familiar Marvel heroes and their abilities into this third-person shooter setting. Some of my favorite characters are the ones who feel like they would be the least at home in a game like this, and most of my last video on Rivals was just gushing about how good the dev team was at doing just that. But with the current trajectory the company has been moving in and what they seem to be prioritizing with original skin designs, I'm not sure if I trust them with creating their own original character. But I like to think they know this would be an insane move. This news got a horrible reaction on social media, and if nothing else, Netease has consistently demonstrated that they have their finger on the pulse when it comes to the community's desires. So I'm gonna be optimistic here and say that if and when this day comes, I'm sure they'll handle it with grace. The lingering thread behind everything we've talked about today is that none of this is a huge problem yet. If they continue down any of these paths, it could very well change the general perception around the game, but as of right this second, things are more or less okay and the game is thriving as usual. And I guess the question is, if I love this game and want it to continue for as long as possible, should I be more okay with them making these design decisions? Because you have to keep in mind, stuff like adding more customization to target the whales, bundling costumes into these larger time sinks to keep players grinding, or adding original characters to target specific audiences may be deliberately predatory actions, but they're actions that will rake in the cash. And more money means more game for you and I. And since I like the game, you might think it's only natural for someone like me to celebrate any and all opportunities for its growth, but I actually think that's an incredibly damaging mindset. Whenever I make a video criticizing game monetization strategies, I get a very vocal group of people in my comments talking about how you have to support the things you like. If you're not spending money on the stuff you're taking part in, you're part of the problem. And while I can see the argument, I firmly believe it's the opposite. While most games take your money in exchange for a cool experience, a free-to-play game has to play by different rules, and give you something worth paying for first, and hope that you'll like it enough to actually pay for things later. That's the trade-off. And I would say up until this point, Marvel Rivals has been doing a very good job at that. I spend enough time playing the game that I don't mind tossing the occasional couple bucks at it. Hell, I even bought one of the event passes so I could get the thing in the Speedo. But while stuff like this may be great for the people who don't mind dropping money, it does kind of devalue the experience for your more average gamer. How long until everything being an additional purchase begins to grind the gears of Johnny, the broke college student who picked this game up because he likes the Spider-Man movies? While someone like him may not be bringing too much actual money, casuals like that who have a passing interest in the Marvel brand are the type of people this game needs to be picking up for continued support, and the small paper cuts like this adding up is the exact type of thing that would get someone like Johnny to drop a game. Maybe I'm just looking at this all from a far too pessimistic viewpoint. In a world of live service disasters, Marvel Rivals has been one of the very few new guys to break out onto the scene and be generally accepted. So maybe I should give them some grace, some time to figure things out. But this isn't just me not having fun anymore or getting burnt out on the game. This is real, very tangible evidence of core systems that used to be better getting worse. And it all just leads me to ask, are they ruining Marvel Rivals? See ya!